Developing tonight, heartbreak in the Pacific Northwest. The bodies of 3 Washington sisters have been found, and a manhunt is now underway for their father. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to West Coast Wrap. I'm Alex Savage. Those little girls were 5, 8, and 9 years old. They were reported missing on Friday. They were from the central Washington city of Wenatchee. Their bodies were found yesterday near Rock Island Campground, about 40 miles northeast of the city. Investigators searched the area after finding their father's abandoned truck nearby. Investigators say the girls' mother reported them missing when they didn't return from a planned visitation with their father. A preliminary examination suggests their cause of death was likely asphyxiation. The coroner took custody of their bodies and identified them as Peyton, Evelyn, and Olivia. Now, authorities are searching for the girl's father, 32-year-old Travis Decker, who's described as a former military member with extensive training. He's wanted for 3 counts of first-degree murder and first-degree kidnapping. Fox 13's A.J. Genevel spent time in Wenatchee today, where the entire community is grieving.
The Wenatchee community is one that is tight-knit. We have seen that throughout the day. All 3 of these little girls going to the same school, a smaller community, one where you know each other. And we have seen the support that is coming from not just the Wenatchee community, but really the entire country. I want to show you just how much support the Decker family is seeing. At last check, a GoFundMe that has only been up for a few hours has raised more than $150,000 for Whitney Decker. That is the mother of these 3 little girls. I got a chance to speak to the family friend who created this GoFundMe. She tells me the best way that the community can show their support is through this GoFundMe. We've also seen just how impactful these little girls have been on this community through the words of people who knew them. On a Facebook that was created regarding this incident, regarding the search for these little girls, we heard from some community members, some parents. One parent saying in a post that her child was a friend of the youngest Decker girl. Another parent expressing their support through faith in this difficult time for this entire community. And another parent talking about how the oldest Decker girl was just fantastic at multiple sports and how much she will be missed on the field this season.
And that was Fox 13's A.J. Genevel reporting tonight. Again, a manhunt for the girl's father is ongoing tonight. Here is another look at Travis Decker. If you spot him, you're urged to call 911 immediately. Authorities say do not approach him. Well, there have been questions about why there was no Amber Alert issued for those 3 girls. Wenatchee police say they tried to activate an Amber Alert twice on Friday, but the Washington State Patrol denied those requests, saying the case didn't initially meet the imminent danger criteria. State police did issue what's called an endangered missing person alert. They say at the time they didn't have evidence the children were in danger of imminent death or serious bodily injury.
If the father had made, or if anyone had made threats against the children, if anyone had said, hey, I'm going to take these kids and nobody's ever going to see us. And if I can't have them, nobody can. I mean, those are the types of things that you hear sometimes, and that elevates it.
An endangered missing person alert is a step below an Amber Alert. It's distributed via email, posted on highway signs, and shared on social media, but it does not trigger emergency broadcast interruptions or phone alerts like an Amber Alert does. We have an update tonight on that firebombing attack in Colorado from over the weekend. The wife and children of the man suspected of throwing Molotov cocktails at demonstrators in Boulder, they are all in ICE custody tonight. As Fox's Alicia Cunha reports, the family could be deported as early as tonight.
The wife and all 5 children of the suspected Boulder terrorist are now in federal custody and being processed for expedited removal. After Sunday's violent attack in Colorado left 12 people injured, sending shockwaves through the Jewish community.
Some anger, there was sadness, grief. A lot of things mixed together.
Authorities say Mohammed Solomon is facing 16 attempted murder charges, plus counts for using an incendiary device, for throwing Molotov cocktails at a group marching for Israeli hostages. They also say he is facing a federal hate crime charge, and more could be coming.
We've moved swiftly to charge quickly, just to send the message to the community that no acts of anti-Semitism are going to be tolerated.
The acting U.S. Attorney for Colorado says Solomon, who is a visa overstay, admitted to planning the attack for a year and said he wanted to kill all Zionist people. The attack follows the murder of 2 staff members of the Israeli embassy in Washington outside a Jewish museum and an arson attack on Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro's mansion.
We as Jews, and this is not an overstatement, we're being hunted. And this is now proven it. It was already proven.
The Anti-Defamation League reported the highest number of anti-Semitic incidents in 2024, adding there's been more than a 300% increase in the last 5 years. And according to the American Jewish Committee, 3/4 of Jewish Americans say they feel less safe since the October 7th attacks. The federal government says it is taking action against acts of anti-Semitism.
This is pure evil. The Department of Justice has already filed federal hate crime charges against the alleged perpetrator, and he will be held accountable to the fullest extent of the law.
ICE has placed a detainer on the suspect in the unlikely event he makes bond. In Boulder, Colorado, Alicia Acuna, Fox News.
Today, a judge in Los Angeles sentenced disgraced celebrity attorney Tom Girardi to more than 7 years in federal prison for stealing tens of millions of dollars in settlement funds from his former clients. Among those who testified at this trial, an Arizona woman whose husband was killed in a boating accident and several victims who were burned in the 2010 gas pipeline explosion in San Bruno, California. The 86-year-old former trial attorney was ordered to pay $2.3 million in restitution. Girardi was known for suing PG&E over groundwater contamination, a case that inspired the movie Erin Brockovich. He is also the estranged husband of the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills star Erica Jane. Joining us tonight with some analysis on this case is attorney Maria Bourne. Maria, thank you for the time tonight. The case that was laid out by prosecutors made it clear here that Girardi took advantage of all of these people who turned to him to help them find justice in their different cases. What troubles you most about the crimes that he was convicted of here, especially when they're committed by someone who is supposed to be upholding the law?
Yeah, it's absolutely despicable. He held a deep level of trust. These clients came to him to help them in their lowest parts of their life, and he took advantage of that, stole their money, and the prison sentence he received will never right the wrongs that he did.
Do you have any concerns about a case like this and the actions of Girardi doing damage to the legal profession, undermining the faith that people have in the legal profession?
Yeah, absolutely. And not only that, but all of the checks that were there to stop him didn't seem to stop him. He was able to get around it. So it's sad, but there are things in place and there have been actions to try to correct this wrong, to make it better, to make sure that attorneys are held accountable when they steal from their clients.
Yeah, there is a question about how this was allowed to go on for so long. The state bar had received more than 200 complaints over the years about Girardi, going all the way back to the 1980s. None of that led to any disciplinary action until his firm was disbanded and he was disbarred here. How do you think this kind of corruption was allowed to go on for so long? What went wrong with the system?
You know, I don't entirely know, but what I can say is from the information that I have is that it appears that people were given advantages and paid in ways that made them silenced. You know, and it's sad because, as you mentioned, these were the victims of atrocious injuries, that burned victims, people that died in plane crashes, and to steal their money and to defy their trust is, you know, the utmost concerning in our field and should have been looked at and investigated thoroughly right away.
What kind of changes have been made in specifically with the state bar system, the oversight system we have for attorneys here in California? What changes have been made to ensure that something like this doesn't happen again?
This year, the state bar has put out a lot of different changes, including a lot of reviews on how clients' money is held and reporting those trusts, and also has there's a lot of training, because a lot of people work for Girardi and a lot of people in his circle that should have been able to see this, but for whatever reason they didn't report it, or they did and they weren't heard. And so now everybody, all the attorneys at my firm, have to have training on handling of client funds, and we have to report it. And there's just a lot more oversight from the state bar regarding these matters.
Okay. We know that Girardi has been diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease, but the judge in this case still made the decision that he was mentally competent to move forward here with the sentencing today, just as she found that he was competent to stand trial as well. How do you think the judge reached that conclusion that Girardi was mentally fit, despite some of the memory issues he says he has, to be able to be sentenced in this case?
Yeah, the judge thoroughly reviewed the records, reviewed the medical reports, and made an independent decision that appears to be the right decision, that he should serve some time in jail for the fraud that he bestowed upon his clients.
As we wrap up, what is the lasting lesson you think that everyone can learn from this case, especially those of you in the legal profession?
I think it sends a message to attorneys that if you're going to steal from your clients, that there's a justice system that will come after you just as well, that we're not outside of that justice system, we're part of it, and that we will be held to high standards, and that the court will imprison you if you try to steal from your clients.
All right, Attorney Maria Bourne, we appreciate your perspective tonight. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I will let you know that Girardi is supposed to be surrendered to authorities by July 17th. Up next tonight here on West Coast Wrap, a girl from Mexico can count on staying here in California to get life-saving treatment. Coming up tonight, what took her off of a deportation list?
And Alex, let's go ahead and head to Phoenix now, where the skies appear to be clearing out there. But I'm going to tell you something that happened there today that's a little bit rare. That's coming up with your West Coast Wrap forecast.
The neurology was covered by Medicare. What wasn't covered was the promise that I kept, that I would keep her at home.
And that promise has an 80-year-old Utah man working to pay off his medical bills. We'll show you how his community is now rallying behind him to offer support. We have an update tonight on the 4-year-old girl from Mexico who was facing potential deportation as she receives life-saving medical treatment in California. Sofia Vargas has been granted humanitarian parole. This will protect her from deportation for at least 1 year. The girl and her family received an emergency visa in 2023 so she could be treated at Children's Hospital Los Angeles. She needs 14 hours worth of intravenous nutrition per day to manage a condition called short bowel syndrome. In April, the family received a notice that their status would be revoked. The Department of Homeland Security has not commented on the decision to grant humanitarian parole in this case. We also have an update for you tonight on the investigation into repeated attacks against a transgender woman in Southern California. Los Angeles police say they have now arrested 1 of 3 people suspected of attacking Sabrina de la Peña at her Los Angeles business. Chief Jim McDonnell spoke about the case this morning.
Our heart goes out to her for what she's been through with 5 incidents in the course of roughly a month. Where we take these crimes very seriously. We have a lot of resources focused on taking these individuals into custody and holding them accountable for what they've done. Certainly, I can understand anybody who is either a victim of a crime or aware of crimes like these, particularly hate crimes, all the more egregious, that they would want to see more being done. But we have a lot of resources dedicated to this and are taking it very seriously.
Investigators say they're treating these attacks as a series of hate crimes. Sabrina de la Peña says they began back in April and involved sexual assault and beatings.
I just grabbed my email I got in my hand and I asked God, help me. Help me, please help me.
And the search is ongoing for 2 more suspects in this case. Quite the scene here in the Las Vegas Valley. People seeing storms moving across the area, dumping quite a bit of hail. These images were sent to us as storms crossed Las Vegas earlier this afternoon. No reports of any damage from all that hail or these storms. A similar severe weather event hit this region just last month. And a little further east from there, a flash flood watch is in effect. A live look here at the scene in Sedona, Arizona. Looks beautiful from this shot. This is one of the areas in Arizona where people are being urged to prepare for heavy rain and thunderstorms. For more, let's bring in KTVU meteorologist Roberta Gonzalez, who is tracking the threat of severe weather and the conditions all across the West. It's a gorgeous shot there from Sedona, but we shouldn't let that fool us. There's some really serious weather out there.
You're absolutely spot on there, Alex. And boy, didn't you love seeing that dime-sized hail? Wasn't that wonderful? That was over the Las Vegas area. That was sent to us by my good buddy, Brian Fagundes. And thank you so much, sir.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, we do appreciate it. And we also have that dime-sized hail. It's all associated with the same system that has sparked that flash flood watch in effect around the Sedona area, where currently it is 59 degrees there, going up to a high tomorrow of 81 degrees after a couple of thunderstorms. Again, this is all the same system here, and this is all what was once Tropical Storm Alvin. And Alvin has fallen apart at the seam, but it has contributed to monsoonal moisture that made it all the way into the Las Vegas area. That cluster was over Vegas with that dime-sized hail, now over Pahrump and making its way into California. Look at all this remnants of Alvin over the Palm Springs area into Temecula off I-15. Even Los Angeles saw some rain showers today, up to 5/100ths of an inch of precipitation at 72 degrees. And you can see that beautiful view in Santa Monica as those clouds are trying to push out of the area. San Francisco, high temperature today 66 degrees with lots of haze in the vicinity. Average high 65, so it was a pretty spot-on spring day in San Francisco. Seattle, you overachieved. Your average high this time of the year, 69 today, 74, but that's going to change. Meanwhile, we do take you to Phoenix, where you had the abundance of rain showers today, and that was north of the area and Flagstaff. Today's high in Phoenix, 97, but you know what? Typically this time of the year, you should be in the triple digits. Your historical high is 101 degrees, so that was rare today that you did not match that. Currently 62 San Francisco, 72 in Salt Lake City, 73 in Seattle. Slow to cool there. We will see increasing clouds over the Seattle area tomorrow in the Pacific Northwest with impending rain showers. A thicker marine layer pushes on shore to the Bay Area. Los Angeles dries out, but we still have some light rain in the vicinity of the Las Vegas area for our Wednesday. Meanwhile, it looks something like this as far as the outlook is concerned. Pretty seasonal throughout most of the areas. Back into the triple digits in Phoenix by the end of the work week. Alex?
Roberta, thank you. Up next here on West Coast Wrap tonight, a father and son hoping to row their way into the record books. Tonight, how they felt as they got started on the trip of a lifetime across the Pacific Ocean. Plus, see how an 80-year-old grocery store bagger here in the West is getting a lot of help from his community as he continues working to pay off medical debt. A newly installed web camera captured Mother Nature at work in Yellowstone National Park. These are some of the recent images picked up by the camera. They show an eruption blasting from a thermal pool at Biscuit Basin in Wyoming. The eruption sent water several feet up into the air. This area has been off limits to the public ever since July of last year because of eruption activity. Former California Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger has a message for environmentalists who are frustrated about clashing with the Trump administration.
You know what I say to them? Exactly what I said in my movie Kindergarten Cop to the kids. Stop whining. Stop whining.
Schwarzenegger is hosting a climate summit in Austria, which is being attended by business executives, community activists, journalists, along with current and past world leaders, such as former United Kingdom Prime Minister Tony Blair. Other speakers include Bay Area venture capitalist and former California Comptroller Steve Wesley, as well as political news anchor Alex Michelson from Fox 11 in Los Angeles. Schwarzenegger urged conference participants to speak up and take action.
I know that the people are sick and tired of the whining and the complaining and the doom and gloom. They want heroes. They want more complaints. That's not what we want, and that's not what we need.
While he disagrees with President Trump's policies, Schwarzenegger told the crowd it's not his style to bash others. He says if you want to sway public opinion, you have to show how people's lives will improve right now rather than decades into the future. An 80-year-old man in Utah says medical bills are keeping him working as a grocery store bagger. Fox 13's Chris Reed shows us how his community is hoping to offer him some help.
Hello, Gary. Anyone who goes to the Smith's Market on Bluff in St. George knows Gary Sailing, the kind 80-year-old bagger. Something people may not realize is Gary once bagged groceries for Betty Davis. I'm Fox 13 Southern Utah News reporter Chris Reed. These days, Gary is bagging for the love of his life, and the St. George community is starting to take notice. Gary first worked as a grocery bagger back in high school in California. He never expected to pick it up again at this age. His life's work was in architecture.
Now, was she pretty or what?
And his love was his wife, Carol. They met at a stoplight back in 1991.
The exact instant we both raised our sunglasses at the same moment.
Turned out they had been going to the same store to pick up coffee for decades. And when the wife of the store's owner found out,
she comes around the corner and she's crying and she goes, "Gary, are you telling me you finally ran into Carol?" We fell in love with each other on the bench because we ended up sitting there for 3 hours.
That love lasted right through January 2017 when Carol, an artist, was diagnosed with sundowner syndrome, a form of dementia. They moved to be near a neurologist in southern Utah.
The neurology was covered by Medicare. What wasn't covered was the promise that I kept that I would keep her at home.
Carol died in 2021, but Gary's love for her lives on. Unfortunately, so do the medical bills. Gary still owes $80,000.
I saw Gary bagging groceries and I thought, what's this guy? Why is this elderly man still here?
Duana Johnson runs a small ministry in town. She organized the Gary Sailing donation account at the State Bank of Southern Utah that people can donate to. There's also a Venmo account.
So we started a fundraiser and people have been messaging saying that they see him all the time and they really love him. He's always nice, he's always kind, he's always like, you know, greeting them and smiling.
There is no way I'm a hero. I am not an angel, and I'm certainly not a saint. I made the promise to keep her at home and never put her in a nursing home because I took vows.
From St. George, Chris Reed, Fox 13 News, Utah.
That is fantastic to see the community stepping up to help Gary. Okay, finally tonight, a father and son are rowing across the Pacific Ocean to set a world record. Tim and Harrison Crockett left from Liberty Ship Marina in Sausalito earlier this morning, just north of San Francisco. They are headed off for Hawaii. The pair is expecting to face physical and mental challenges as they're planning to row for more than 12 hours a day over the next 40 days. Tim told us they have everything they need on board to cover this 2,400-mile journey.
It's a 24-foot ocean rowing boat, 2 cabins, one on either side of the main working deck, 2 rowing positions. Everything we need to survive and thrive on the ocean is packed in there, so we won't get any outside assistance other than some weather writing and some troubleshooting via messaging apps and satellite communications and so forth. So we have to do it completely self-sufficient.
All right, wish them all the best.